Concern is growing over a looming famine in eastern Africa, where the UN's World Food Programme has estimated that 20 million people are in need of assistance. Aid groups say conflict, corruption, and drought are all contributing factors. In Ethiopia's war-torn Tigray and Amhara regions, the government recently confirmed that hundreds of people have died due to starvation in recent months, a rare acknowledgement of the crisis. DW's Mariel Mueller looks at the situation outside the Tigray region's capital, Mekele.
It took hours for Gezaheng Kebede to carry her 2-year-old son to Yechila, the town with the nearest hospital. Just in time, it seems.
When my son got seriously ill, I brought him here. They gave him a nutritional supplement called plumpy nut. I'm feeding him with that.
Slowly, little Haftu Ngusu is getting better. Gezaheng and her husband are farmers, like many in the region, but the ongoing drought has killed off all their crops and animals.
We are starving. I have been begging for food in nearby towns since October. My son is starving. I haven't received any help.
Back in her village, there are many people in a similar state, she tells us, but they're too weak to make the journey. Those who do reach the hospital are already in a very bad condition, Nurse Joseph Gebrehana says. In the past 3 months, malnutrition cases have tripled.
We have taken care of more than 120 children who came to our hospital. Even they aren't getting enough support. We cannot accept any more because we don't have the resources to help them. They suffer at home on their own.
He's worried about the long-term consequences.
Malnutrition causes persistent problems for the next generation. Those malnourished children will be affected physically, mentally, and their general development overall.
The town of Yechila has witnessed one of the war's fiercest battles. Bombed-out trucks can still be seen along the roads. Following the 2-year war that ended in 2022, came months of drought. In March 2023, the United Nations and the United States halted food aid for the Tigray region and later to the whole country because of a widespread scheme by Ethiopian officials to steal humanitarian grain. After reforms were put in place, aid agencies resumed deliveries 2 months ago. But of the over 3 million people targeted, only 14% have so far received any food. 25 kilometers outside the town of Yechila, farmers Mariel Gebrehana and his wife are desperate to find anything to eat for the next day.
We need aid from the government and donors. If not, we face death. No one will survive. We need attention. We are human too.
Across Ethiopia, 1 in 6 of the 120 million population need food aid because of drought, conflict, and rising inflation. Mbaye, who hasn't had a proper meal in weeks, hopes it won't arrive too late.
Joining us now for more is Gezaheng Kebede Gebrehana, country director in Ethiopia for Oxfam. Thanks for being with us. Now, your organization, Oxfam, issued a warning earlier this month describing how people are resorting to desperate measures in Ethiopia to survive this hunger crisis. What are we talking about here?
Well, evidently, in spite of being one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world, the crisis in the north has not been getting sufficient attention in terms of resourcing. And of course, everybody knows that the area has been going through conflict over the past 2 years until the peace deal was done. And that has resulted in definitely a need for people to really make their livelihoods. And the very fact that food was not really coming up to the level that is required. And this coupled with the drought situation and the desert locust infestation, all these factors playing against the people's livelihoods. situation have become really, really worse for the area. That's why we came up with this press release, trying to really remind the whole world that food assistance is really, really very, very pertinent at this particular time. But people are really going hungry if sufficient amount of food is not coming to the country.
Now, Ethiopian officials have been accused of running a massive aid theft scheme, of actually stealing the aid. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we're not up to that in terms of how the food was being managed by different stakeholders in the whole process. But what we know is people were not really getting sufficient resources. Of course, food suspension was made by US and the UN following the accusation. But for us, to be honest, we really need to look at it from the perspective of those who are in need. Whether the theft that is being claimed is right or wrong is a different matter. But as humanitarians, what we need is the action has resulted in a tremendous chaotic situation for those who are in need.
How much more aid is needed to address the food shortage in the region? And do you think that aid can be made available and delivered in time to avert an even bigger disaster?
No, I mean, to do something that rather than not doing is always better. Yes, definitely, a lot has been, because of the suspensions, the situation has aggravated. And as I said earlier, it has been aggravated because of the crisis, the drought situation as well. And people who have been in conflict for 2 years, who have not been able to really plant and go through the normal agricultural practices, whatever they need is, some food to come to the country. And it's not only to the country, basically to the whole, to the region, but basically to the whole of the country. The aid that is coming is really diminishing. As we know, only 34% of the humanitarian appeal by the UN has been funded over the past year.
Right.
This will mean quite a lot.
It's a serious problem. Gezaheng Kebede Gebrehana, thank you very much for talking with us today from Addis Ababa.
Thank you very much for taking this very seriously and getting it to the rest of the world.